Quite often we've seen from a sourcing and procurement standpoint that clients will attempt to use a goods and materials format in their procurement process, their documentation and that sort of thing, and it'll come across as they're buying goods and when they're actually buying services. And adapting that after the fact can sometimes be challenging because the focus oftentimes is on quality of the material, delivery time, manufacturing time, cycle times, things like that. Our aspect of the supply chain is focused more on on-time delivery, the services performed, visibility, technology, and putting those into a contract, a master services agreement, an SLA after the fact can sometimes be challenging, and we've seen that result in some frustration and some gap in communication between both parties when they've entered into negotiation.
A better approach would be finding somebody and involving them further up in the supply chain or further upstream so that they can really help you problem solve. And it's more about a landed cost versus, hey, we're gonna talk about freight rates. Because what's that saying, like, you're pinching pennies while dollars are flying by your head. Oftentimes the freight charges, yeah, it matters. You want good value for what you're getting. But the real dollars are in, hey, how are you sourcing? Where are you sourcing? Are you taking advantage of consolidation opportunities? Where are your DCs located? Are they in the right locations? Your logistics provider should be able to help you come up with those decisions. But that also takes an extreme amount of trust. So the organization has to be willing to be full kimono and share data, maybe a couple years worth of data, so that the logistics company can take a look at it and say, hey, let's put our smartest people in a room and figure this out for you and with you. Because we're the experts in logistics. We don't expect our clients to be, but if we're truly an extension of their organization and their brand, we should be able to bring those strengths to the table and say, hey, where do you want to go? Let us use our expertise to help you get there.
One of the things people will have a tendency to look at is some of the traditional things. Okay, what's the financial position of the company? What's their reputation? What's their size? Their technology? Things like that. Maybe what's their footprint, if you will. And I think oftentimes when you just take that approach, you miss some of the things that really help you add value in more of a total cost type environment, which would be more, is there a fit between the two companies? Is there even a cultural fit between the two companies potentially if you get down to that level? What is that company's reputation in the marketplace? Can they really be an extension of my company and support me and help me be successful as Mr. Customer, Mr. Shipper, Mr. Manufacturer, help me be personally successful, help my company be personally successful, and help me support the SLAs for my customers as well. If you can expand that and get that look of a broader total cost type look, it really will help you avoid some of those pitfalls that you just traditionally look at in a sourcing process.
By and large, companies have to do their due diligence on their front end to really investigate what type of company their logistics provider is, or when they're going through a bid, really vetting out some of the things that aren't on paper, like the rates, the softer type stuff. Go to their website, see what their purpose is. See if you can determine even on their website what they stand for, what they believe in, what type of company it is. And then when you're in meetings with that company and vetting them out, do you feel a sense of, is it genuine, right? Do those align? Do they align to their purpose? Ask them questions about their purpose. Do the people you're communicating with even know what the values of their organization are? Very important, but sometimes overlooked are, hey, tell me about how your company weathered the storm over the past 18 months. What are some of the ways that you help some of your clients get through some of the messiness of 2020? If you don't think that your logistics provider should be innovative, then you're probably gonna get left in the dust somewhere, right? So there are a lot of things like, what is your IT team doing to make sure that your systems are secure? How do I know that my information is secure? And if people don't know the answers to those questions, then you're probably going to face some challenges down the road.
Oftentimes we'll see clients focus in from a procurement standpoint only. In fact, even sometimes using automated procurement tools, which effectively leave a lot of the people element out of it. It potentially leaves all the business element out of it and requires on the client side to get all of those requirements in the system, in the document, and spelled out. And as we all know, we don't think of everything, when we're asked to fill the form out, if you will. Getting in the room and collaborating and understanding and bringing the affected business units together with procurement from a client standpoint or a shipper manufacturer standpoint, I think is really key. And the same thing holds true on the logistics service provider side of bringing more than just the salesperson into the loop in the negotiation, going wider, if you will, with technology, with finance, operations. You bring those larger, expanded, wider groups into a conversation and put a marker in everyone's hands, and you'll be amazed at what you see on the whiteboard. Those type of programs that are put together in that manner have a much longer staying power than ones that are just on paper and talked about electronically or via email in a negotiation, and I'll call it a cold negotiation process.
And when you're just starting a relationship with someone, asking them, hey, what are your pain points? That kind of backs them into a corner of, hey, what are your problems and what do you want to see? You kind of have to uncover that layer by layer and build trust as you're asking these questions. And at the end of that, you get people talking, and sometimes they think, oh my gosh, this is actually the problem and I didn't even realize it. And they uncovered it because of the line of questioning, right? So I think that starts the collaborative process of, hey, I'm an outsider. I can make some assumptions about your business, but I'm an outsider. So let me ask very one-on-one basic questions, because I don't want to assume I know anything. And sometimes that level of just very elementary questions gets you to a heart of a problem that was overlooked by the company themselves. I think a lot of companies in the industry actually refer to their vendors as agents, or it feels like a very sterile relationship. But we like to refer to them as partners because we have a very collaborative relationship. They are our partners. They're an extension of us, and it's how we service our clients. So we like to keep that relationship a positive one, a fun one, actually. We're in an industry where traditionally logistics providers are hard on their vendors. But if you take the approach of, hey, this is really a collaboration, and we are going to treat our vendors as an extension of us, because at the end of the day, if they don't perform well, guess who is negatively impacted? The client. So we really orient around that, because if everybody is not winning, the end result is a very unhappy client.
A logistics service provider has competence and resource and talent that is available. We've seen people take advantage of that really in the past 2-year time period when they were challenged with peaks and valleys in their own business, of being able to reach out to us in that case for providing support and services that maybe went beyond moving freight. You really look at the supply chain and the jobs that are being done, ranging from shipping, receiving, manufacturing, planning, all sorts of things in there. There's elements of that a good logistics service provider can support and has the expertise and talent to provide that. I think that's one of the things that customer can take advantage of, and also comprehend that in their services agreement or contract.
I think that's the hardest part, right, is establishing trust, and you have to do it early. There are things in those early stages that I think can show an organization that you are a trustworthy company to work for, and a lot of that can happen through the onboarding process. Let me walk you through how diligent we are about onboarding, because it's risky to change logistics providers. But let me walk you through the steps and why we're so diligent about it, because we want to make sure that you succeed. Yes, we're nimble. Yes, we can turn quickly and make quick decisions, but we also want to be able to slow down to make sure that we're making the right decisions and that we're doing things properly. That also requires really understanding what the impact to failure is. In the very first discussion, what is the impact to your organization if this doesn't get there? And not just me understanding that or the person next to me understanding that. When we're onboarding an account, making sure that all the way down to the dock level, that everybody understands that if this does not get there, what is the impact? What is the financial impact? Maybe it's medical equipment and it is a true matter of life or death. Well, Does the dock handler know that? Because it makes a difference. It makes a difference in how he or she is connected to that product and their job. A lot of those things in the first conversation can be little ways to start establishing trust with the client.
I see trust eroded in the process when there's a lack of involvement of the people. You go back to the beginning of the sourcing process, and if people are not included, and if a wide range of people are not included, and you make it more cold, if you will, I think that's where you don't have the opportunity to build at the front end the relationship that will carry through. As an example, we very often try to have our key employees that are involved, that we know are going to be involved in business that we're going to be handling on the back end, involved at the front end. When you have those people involved at the front end, and a customer and the customer's business people can look at that and realize, wait a minute, this person that I'm spending time learning how to communicate with, talk with, even negotiate with, is the same person that's going to be helping me months from now when my business starts, years from now when my business has challenges. That's very, very impactful, I think, for both parties, and it really is something that's a distinguishing characteristic, I think, of what we do in the business.
Once you have the trust established, then it's more about accountability, okay? What have you committed to, and making sure that you're following through on those commitments. If and when you're not following through on those commitments, that's where you lose those bits of trust. And if that does happen, you need to act quickly to course correct, right? If there's an issue with account management or something like that, that's the reason why you stick to a cadence of QBRs. Hey, how did we do this quarter? If you skip the opportunity to do that, well, holy cow, now you've gone 6 months and nobody has sat down between both organizations and said, what is going right? What is not going quite so right? And how do we make adjustments to get us back to where we need to be? Having someone oversee the account as things change, because business needs change on both sides. So 3 months from now, are we still within the scope of work that we originally outlined? If not, what needs to be done to either better support you or change some of our processes so that they better align with where you're going?